Open world games are some of the biggest, best, most fun, most in-demand games. But that also means sometimes it's easy to overlook some great ones. We did some brainstorming and we came up with some of the best underrated open world games you really should check out. Some of you may agree with the games on this list, but some may also disagree. Either way, these are some of the underrated games that we think you should play. And with that out of the way, we got 15 games to get through. So let's get started off with number 15. We have Sleeping Dogs. Now, arguably, weirdly the most best underrated open world game of all time, Sleeping Dogs is what you get if you combine GTA with some really serious fighting game mechanics. While of course this open world game has everything you could possibly want in it. You know, you're canyoning through the streets of Hong Kong, challenging random passersby to fight, smashing heads against environmental hazards. The world here is really detailed and impressive, but the main mission design of this game is what really compels you to keep playing. Each of these main story quests throws either crazy kung fu battles your way or intricately detailed con jobs and crime missions. It's essentially like an open world game starring Jackie Chan at his prime, where you're fighting and thrusting into combat encounters at a very consistent rate. The city of Hong Kong is a lot of fun to explore, especially in the rain, but unlike a lot of other games in this genre, Sleeping Dogs stands out because it never really forgets that it's a good hand-to-hand combat game. It always gives you the right amount of hand-to-hand combat at the right times. It's a level of care and dedication that really makes this open world game underrated, since the developers honestly went above and beyond what you'd expect from an open world sandbox-like city crime game. Now next, at number 14, it's the Saboteur. The simple answer here is that if you haven't played the Saboteur yet, you need to drop what you're doing now and play it. Seriously, because this is like a weird relic from a time before open world games became the biggest games. It's a really solid piece of open world game history. Developed by Pandemic Studios, this was actually their last game after the release of the also an overlooked game, The Lord of the Rings Conquest. The Saboteur is full of rough edges. You know, this is not exactly a polished experience, but the unique concept alone makes it underrated and a must-play, honestly essential game on this list. You play as Sean Devlin that makes his way to Paris to get revenge against the Nazis. And it sounds so stupid on paper, but the city of Paris here is very detailed. The developers really decided they wanted to make the best Paris they'd ever seen in a video game to this point. And to be fair, they did a great job. For an open world game back then, the streets are packed with buildings and detail. The world is also dynamic, where you can weaken Nazi control in some of the districts until you can remove their patrols completely, which makes exploring that area a lot easier. Originally released in 2009, so like Paris isn't as big as it would be in a modern video game, but the great driving controls, the fun combat, and the over-the-top bombing missions make this open world game a must-play recommendation from us. Moving on to number 13, we have Motortown Behind the Wheel. This game may still be in early access, but it's more than ready for some time in the spotlight. While it doesn't look like the most beautiful game, Motortown essentially lets you do whatever you want in one big open map. It's a driving simulator you can actually play. It's really accessible. Everything here just feels good enough. You know, it's smooth enough to drive because what you're doing is everything from delivering boxes and driving people around to driving getaway drivers to taking on a tool-up supercar to kill time in a top speed challenge. There's a ton to do here in Motortown, and the devs are always adding more to do inside of it. In terms of cheapo open world games, Motortown may have one of the least appealing visuals here on this list. Like simple graphics, but the game itself runs really well. It serves itself well. It makes it underrated. It's definitely a must play, and thankfully the reviews on Steam speak for itself. Motortown Behind the Wheel is very positively reviewed on the platform. The game can be played either single player or with friends, and unlike a lot of other early access games and open world games in general, you don't need a beefy PC to run it. So if you're looking for a chill drive behind the wheel, Motortown is your best bet. Next at number 12, Sengoku Dynasty is arguably one of the best survival builder games to come out in recent memory. This surprisingly robust open world game is for the player who really likes building a life for themselves in the great open world during a very interesting, culturally significant time period. And yet another game where you're making deliveries to nearby villages and starting up a town, Sengoku Dynasty takes a massive sandbox and gives you the ultimate freedom to survive. From foraging the many corners of this vast map to completely cutting down trees and deforesting the entire map out of that pesky tree issue, Sengoku Dynasty compels you to keep playing with time management. Once the sun sets, it's time to start worrying about surviving the night. Step by step, you'll build yourself a home. Then you'll recruit villagers. You'll plant crops. City management, though, is actually pretty light, since designing layouts here is an all-around enjoyable experience. Between expanding your town and getting bigger and better tools, you're also completing quests to slowly unfurl the main story. All this can be played single or with multiple players, and the level of complexity when it comes to Sengoku Dynasty is entirely really up to you. You might not even want to build a town. You might want to just survive yourself. Either way, the game has something for everyone. Now at number 11, if you've ever wanted to live out your most vile and unhinged Shark Week fantasy, now is your chance. 2020's Maneater is a game that puts you in control of a shark with dozens of open-world environments to explore, various human enemies to take on, and RPG elements to upgrade your shark killer. This game is completely insane in all of the best possible ways, and while it got decent reviews during its launch, it still did fly a bit under the radar. And as one of the people who bought this game on its release, I gotta say, more people should play this frickin' game. It's hilarious and fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but the shark combat, the backflips, everything, the upgrades, it's all an incredible good time. A surprising amount of variety, and it's all enhanced too by really great narration. In terms of a game where you play as a shark, this is one of the best case scenarios. We don't see a world where a more ambitious or bigger budget shark open world game like this could ever possibly exist, and actually playing it is really a joy. Completely unapologetically ridiculous and arcadey with everything it does, from the ramming attacks to the air combo on land where you can flop around on the ground and devour helpless humans. Yeah, this game really has it all. Look, when I said open world games, you probably weren't expecting this thing to pop up, but it is definitely a good time and it's definitely underrated. Next at number 10 is Biomutant. Biomutant is a game that's frankly very easy to never play. It's got this bad reputation from its 2021 release, and it's developed by a smaller team, so the big ideas behind Biomutant only kind of got halfway there. It led to this kind of messy, kind of dull open-world action RPG. Still, the mutated monsters you meet along the way are incredible. The character creator and morphing you can do on your main playable character is cool as hell, and the world itself is really, really interesting to see. It's a worthwhile game really because the devs didn't exactly move on from Biomutant. Instead, they kept updating it, which over the years, the game got better and better. Now, Biomutant is this colorful, open-world game that just begs to be seen. I mean, it does have things that it never really, reaches, it doesn't reach its full potential. But as an open-world game, just riding a mech suit and wandering through the wasteland map while your character evolves along the way, it's still really fun. The combat here does get a little repetitive, and the driving controls can get pretty unwieldy, actually, but it's the ambition of Biomutant that makes it such kind of a must-play, underrated open-world game. Now at number 9, we have Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. If you've ever wanted to experience the mobster lifestyle represented in so many classic movies and TV shows, then Mafia 2 has you covered. Actually underrated, at the time of its release in 2010, it got good reviews, great critical reception, but still a lot of people missed this one. Even some of the people that reviewed this game highly, like myself, a lot of people just overlooked it. And now yes, it may have been a little short in its story campaign length, and it did lack the depth of something like Grand Theft Auto, but it definitely made up for its shortcomings with incredible atmosphere, its immersive world of Empire Bay, fantastic soundtrack, and a crime-filled story of friendship, betrayal, and revenge. This is a cinematic open-world game, removing some of the bells and whistles, sure, but it really just giving you a very straight-up, action-packed mafioso story. It's engaging, actually, pretty hard-hitting in terms of drama, and a lot of people had fun with it. The Definitive Edition is kind of your best-case scenario for how to play this one. It takes all the good stuff from the original and remasters it with improved graphics and stuff, but it also includes all of the previously released DLCs. While this game isn't an all-timer, it's certainly a rock-solid, underrated open-world crime game that I really think is worth checking out. Now next over at number 8, the indie darling Sable provides a beautifully stylized and different open-world experience. I just had to mention it here because it really is all about exploration and discovery. Players assume the role of a young girl embarking on her rite of passage journey. It's essentially an open-world game where the world and environments are cel-shaded. It's very comic book, very otherworldly sci-fi. It's got chill music. It's really something special. And although it was actually received positively by many people, in the end, I still think it's underrated because it's just not enough people have played it, man. The real charm is its simplicity and how it really turns the open world formula on its head. Unlike other open world games, Sable focuses less on combat and intense complex missions, and it really just lets you explore, really chill and vibey. And it works. You do some light puzzles, you maybe discover some lore in this enchanting desert world inhabited by alien-looking people. It's a very word-of-mouth type game. I feel like more people need to play it, and I think it is special in terms of open world games. You probably weren't expecting that we'd mention something like this here. Again, much less a cartoony indie game, but like I said, this one's just vibes. And if you're looking for that, this game has it all. Here's the vibes. You've just been handed the vibes. Now at number 7, we have Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Honestly, the Syndicate was released at a time when really nobody was asking for another Assassin's Creed game, but while it may have gotten overlooked at its time of release, this game really deserves a second chance. Syndicate puts you in the middle of London, obviously, at the start of a massive gang war during the early days of the Industrial Revolution. In many ways, it's your standard Assassin's Creed formula game. It had everything we had kind of come to expect from the open-world historical murder simulator series, but it really nailed it. It did the formula so well. The addition of unique brotherhood brother and sister protagonists, yes, but also a grappling hook, and probably most notably the incredible sense of style and design of Victorian London makes this a really underrated game among the series, but also just among open-world games in general. I'm not going to say it's a must-play if you've experienced all of the other Assassin's Creed games, but it definitely deserves to stand out and be mentioned when you're talking about the series. It also has really good Jack the Ripper DLC where you hunt down and take out Jack the Ripper, and that alone may be worth checking out. A lot of people did overlook it because they had Assassin's Creed fatigue at the time, or they had played Assassin's Creed Unity, and they thought it sucked so badly they were like, I finally am done with this series, even though Syndicate ended up being pretty good. Next, at number 6, we have Just Cause 3. The Just Cause franchise is one of the pinnacles of over-the-top sandbox action gaming, and the third game in the series really didn't hold anything back, with great destruction physics and some really fun weapons and vehicles to mess around with. Now, unfortunately, the game did face major performance issues and other technical problems at its release, which did end up turning off a lot of players from even giving the game a chance. And while even in 2024 some of these problems still persist, they really don't stop Just Cause 3 from being a triumph of a game despite some flaws. The third game's world is just massive, one of the largest in the entire series, and while it looks relatively empty on the map, they managed to enhance exploration and traversal with the introduction of the new wingsuit. Combining this new aerial mechanic with the pre-existing parachute and grappling hook alone makes this just such an underrated open-world game because it soars past the rest of the Just Cause games with a single push off of a high ledge. It does have a ton of memorable moments and a feeling behind the game of being a hidden gem open-world game, as I said, despite some of the flaws. It eventually became what we consider underrated. Next up, we have Mad Max. Listen, the Just Cause guys did open-world Mad Max game back in, 2015? And believe it or not, it ended up being pretty great. Of course, we say great specifically, with the terms of like a AA game. It's got the mid-budget issues, it's got a pretty barren open world, and the combat could be a little spongy and awkward. But what Mad Max does really well is incorporates vehicles. The wasteland isn't just like a wide-open map with nothing to do. When you run into another car, the start of a battle begins. And let me tell you, this battle system in the game is incredible. I mean, you could pull up next to a car and slam your car door into its wheels, swiping it out of existence. You could fight foes by smashing their cars to bits by targeting certain parts of the car, or using your handy-dandy harpoon to completely ruin cars just by pulling them apart. It's wild. You can even just yank the drivers out of their seats too. There's just a lot of variety. Look, Mad Max may not be the greatest game of all time, and it's certainly not on the level of Fury Road, like, the movie series this game theoretically is supposed to be based on, but it is still a fun time. And if you've got Game Pass, it's on there. And it's probably one of the most underrated open world games of all time because it does do its open world stuff just a little bit differently. Up next, we have Prototype 2. Now, Prototype 2 got pretty divisive when it first came out. Pretty much every single game critic out there, hated this game, but it had a very loyal fan base to it. That being said, it doesn't really matter what you thought of this game back in 2012, whether you think it's been a loyal follow-up to Radical Entertainment's smash hit, or if the first one is infinitely better. One thing everyone can settle on is Prototype 2's arena was always a ton of fun to mess around in. While the story in this game isn't that amazing and the main character may not be the most beloved, he's still got a couple of things to really make it a very underrated game worthy of your attention. First off, Prototype's exploration is one of a kind. Players could mix and match superpowers from hovering to flight to jumping to running up walls with ease. It really allows for this really easy control system to do whatever the hell you want. Each of these things also serve a combat function too, letting players run through bad guys or leap into the air to then smash into them. It's all just great. One minute you're running around and the next you pull out a big sword. What makes it even better is the destruction you can cause in a relatively small map, but also because it's not a massive map away from you to do everything, it just makes it all the more rewarding from a movement perspective. In terms of underrated open world games, it makes Prototype 2 an absolute must-play because it's just a really simple one. You just run around and break stuff. Next at number 3, ELEX 2. The game is a lot of things wrapped into one. It's another post-apocalyptic open world game with more than a little burst of sci-fi energy. There are mechs, giants, evil alien empires, really everything you could possibly want in a goofy open world is here and more. What makes ELEX 2 special though is that it's not just an action RPG. The main character here, Jax, is equipped with a jetpack. While you can run around in the game, you can also fly everywhere, so when a beast starts howling at you in the jungle, Jax can easily ascend above it all. Unfortunately, the aiming in ELEX 2 isn't the best, so you might not be able to actually hit anything, but it makes it unique. You're gonna have to land if you want to hit your targets with one of the few cool-looking guns available, but still, just the act of flying around this open-world map is really worth the price of admission alone. You'll be strapping into a full-blown jetpack and zipping around as you talk to some weird or weirder inhabitants of the planet of Magellan. There are bottom-of-the-barrel ugly monsters here to explore, but the creativity on display with ELEX 2 means the developers just really went overboard with their ambitions, and it is admirable, and it makes it a must-play play. This world is a big mishmash of sci-fi tropes, all fighting each other in an eternal battle for supremacy. And the graphics might not be the best, but the gameplay is also pretty mid, like I said. But flying around in an open world is really what you should be playing this one for. Coming in next at number 2, you know, a lot of people are playing Dragon's Dogma 2, but I'm talking about Dragon's Dogma 1. Dragon's Dogma 1 is called Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Now, the open world here is arguably very small in this first game, but the action RPG combat is unmatched. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is one of a kind before we got the sequel. And while many open world games try to be the biggest or the most polished, sometimes you just need a world that feels like anything can happen at any time. The strange companion system, the pawns that follow you around, can be customized and can appear in other players' worlds to assist them. These pawns learn about your world and how to fight certain enemies, and they can talk to each other in real time, pointing out those weak spots. It was a really unique system. It's still unique. It's one of the most unique co-op focused mechanics we've ever seen in a game. Maybe ever. And the action here is great, alright? It's like almost Monster Hunter meets Elder Scrolls. And fighting monsters in a dark world here means sometimes you'll just have to explore the different classes, you know? Either bow and arrow, or learning magic, or hacking up with a sword. Either way, it's a fantastic game, and it can be worth experiencing after Dragon's Dogma 2. But honestly, if you're maybe not sure on Dragon's Dogma 2 and you're like, this looks interesting, just go back to number 1 first. Now finally at number 1, we have Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Now this game might not have lived up to the hype surrounding its predecessor for whatever reason, but this follow game has proven to be a pretty damn amazing open-world adventure. Mediocre storyline aside, Shadow of War more than makes up for it with an expanded and improved version of the incredible Nemesis system, which takes all your orc slaughtering encounters and turns them into personal rivalries. If you've played the first game, you know what I'm talking about, or if you've experienced reviews or lists like this, you're probably tired of hearing about it by now. Instead, let's talk about how much damn fun exploring and taking on the many dangers of Mordor is. It's actually addictive. The combat is really rivaling the highs of the Batman Arkham games. I know that's a big spicy statement, but it's like that with a Lord of the Rings Tolkien nerd skin. If you're into it, you're into it. This game gave us a slightly new version of Mordor with a tons of landmarks to check out. Of course, countless forts to take over, leaders to take down. Shadow of War is brilliant, and for many players, this is actually their better game over the original. Just if you weren't a massive Middle-earth nerd, you may have missed this one. Or maybe you saw the loot box controversy when this game's first originally released. But either way, they're gone now, and this game is good. Now, before we end this video, we have a bonus game for you. But before that, if you don't mind, I just have to do the shameless YouTuber thing. If you like what we're doing here, putting game recommendations in your feed every day, whether it's normal stuff, new games, or even weird, obscure, nerdy stuff like today, clicking the subscribe button really helps us out. Right now, almost 98% of you guys who watch our videos aren't subscribed. That's a lot, right? So if you like what we're doing, or at least you don't hate it, clicking like and subscribing really helps us, helps this video, and helps the channel in general. We really appreciate that. Anyway, last but not least, we have Far Cry Primal. I think this is actually one of Far Cry's most underrated games. The Far Cry franchise has been throwing gamers into chaotic situations with crazy characters and a lot of open-world action and violence for so long now that it can sometimes be a bit hard to remember some of the smaller entries, especially ones like Far Cry Primal, which is set in the Stone Age where you are thrown into an ancient world full of savage tribes. Far Cry Primal was a unique installment, to say the least. It tried some different things. It put the Far Cry formula in a different style setting. So even if a lot of the gameplay mechanics and systems remained the same, the world just felt so different, and the weapons felt so unique with a lot of focus on spears, clubs, and other prehistoric stuff as your primary weapons. The focus on hunting, the different creative crafting system, just how wild it was to see a Far Cry world with no vehicles, is what gives Far Cry Primal its own identity and really makes it a unique Far Cry game that's unlike any other. Some Far Cry fans may have dismissed this one because it didn't have all the modern conveniences of the other games, or that it did feel a little bit like it was wearing the skin of a game like Far Cry 3 or 4, for example. But still, Primal is actually a really fun, weird one if you're just burned out on regular Far Cry. I mean, the prehistoric setting alone makes it pretty damn entertaining. But those are just some of the best underrated open world games you should try at this point. We got plenty more where that came from. We're gonna do a part 2, so keep an eye out for that. But if you have any recommendations of your own, let us know in the comments and we'll see you in the next video.